It's a bird. It's a plane. It's harmless phosphorescence. All right, welcome everybody to the Superhero Movie Podcast. I am your host, Thoreau, and I am not Robert Guillaume.
I am mild-mannered reporter, Alaric Weber.
I might be wearing a ski cap or a swim cap.
And your name is?
And my name is Brian.
And?
I'm Josh Cece, and this movie is really about Benson.
As most things are. The Superhero Movie Podcast is about to transition into a Benson-only podcast. But prior to that, we're going to go through every single superhero movie ever made in chronological order. There's a few rules we have for that. It's live action, features only, so it has to be released in the theater. No cartoons, no serials, no TV shows. So we watch the movie, we gather some half-assed Google research, break down its production, its place in cinema history, and the context of the times in which it was made, and then we tell you about it. So our first episode starts right now. The year was 1951. The 22nd Amendment was ratified. A dashing Harry Truman is president. The New Jersey Turnpike opens. The first color TV picture broadcast from the Empire State Building. Disc jockey Alan Freed coined the term rock and roll. And on November 23rd, 1951, Superman and the Mole Men was released. The very first superhero feature film.
Wherever the target is danger, into the fray leaps the mighty man of steel, racing with supersonic speed to exploding excitement, bolting fearlessly into violence and villainy. No human onslaught can stay him. Super invincible, zooming out of the skies and crashing through into the very teeth of hair-raising peril. A towering hero booming with super action. Sworn enemy of all evils, smashing through. His only shield, his super body. At every turn, slamming into breathtaking hazards, the superhero of them all. Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a speeding locomotive. Leaping buildings in a single bound. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. Fighting for truth and justice. See the adventures of Superman.
It was not exactly Endgame. We're going to start you off here with a little background. A little-known character named Superman was created by writer Jerry Siegel, artist Joe Shuster. First appeared in Action Comics #1, April 18th, 1938. I'm not going to go too deep into that because I'm going to assume anyone who is interested enough in superheroes to listen to a podcast about them probably knows who Superman is. The first adaptation of Superman beyond comic books was a radio show. It was The Adventures of Superman. Ran from 1940 to 1951 for 2,088 episodes on 3 consecutive nights. Paramount Pictures released a series of... that part was not true. Paramount Pictures released a series of Superman theatrical animated shorts between 1941 and 1943. The first live-action adaptation of Superman was a movie serial released in 1948. We are not doing that one because it was a serial. It was very much a kid's show, as all superhero products were at that time. Kirk Alyn was the very first actor to portray Superman on screen. It was the most profitable movie serial in movie history. A sequel serial started, Atom Man vs. Superman, that was released in 1950.
That was Atom Man?
Atom. An atom.
Yes, yeah, all right.
For flying scenes in that, Superman was hand-drawn in animated form and composited onto live-action footage. And then Lippert Pictures somehow got the rights to the character of Superman. I was not able to really uncover much about that. Lippert Pictures was owned by Robert L. Lippert. He mostly, prior to this, made low-budget sci-fi and westerns. I Shot Jesse James, The Baron of Arizona, The Steel Helmet, Lost Continent, which was on MST3K, Rocket Ship XM.
And the steel helmet's an adult film, right? Is that?
Well, yes. Well, it's a little helmet for little heads. The film was written, it was by Richard Felding, which was a pseudonym for Robert Maxwell and Whitney Ellsworth. Robert Maxwell worked on Superman radio and TV beforehand. Interestingly enough, after this, he acquired the rights to Lassie for $2,000 and sold them several years later for $3.5 million.
That was the rights to Lassie?
To Lassie, yeah. He bought Lassie in 1953 and then sold him in 56 for $3.5 million.
He's a dog. How would he have even known who had the rights?
That's right. Whitney Ellsworth was a writer and artist for and editor for DC during the Golden Age and a pretty major creative force behind both Batman and Superman in that era. He did move on to writing the Superman animated series in the 50s before this film. It was directed by Lee Tabor Sholem, nicknamed Rollum Sholem. He directed over 1,300 productions in television and feature films. He is still the most prolific director in Hollywood history.
All quality films.
All of them quality films.
Especially this one.
Yes. This film stars George Superman Reeves, known for playing Superman. And pretty much only Superman. He was in Gone with the Wind. He was in From Here to Eternity.
Really?
Yeah.
Both of those?
Yeah, he was.
He's like a guy standing in the back? Or?
No, he was. He was one of Scarlett's suitors, one of the twins, I think.
Huh.
Oh.
Um,
But what about From Here to Eternity? Is he an enlisted man? Or
I don't know. I've never seen it, honestly.
he happened to be on the beach on Montgomery Cliff. Just
Why are you guys rolling around? Hey, you're going to get all sandy.
He's got a metal detector, which is ironic for Superman.
He died in 1959 from a gunshot wound.
He's not still alive?
So you're telling me
ending.
really Superman.
Which is ironic considering he was Superman.
Well, he was shot as well, right?
Yeah, he did. Well, that's why he died from it.
Well, I know, but it would have been normal for him to have died in any manner.
No, he
at
died
this point.
from a gunshot wound. Wow. Yeah, it's officially was called a suicide, but many think it was actually a murder from his by his wife. He had a somewhat tempestuous relationship. There was a party going on at his house. Apparently, he was not cool with it, and came downstairs from being asleep to yell at the party to shut up. His wife wasn't happy, but
well, it turns out that his wife was a bald real estate developer, evil genius.
You fool, Superman.
She rips off her wig.
So one of the mole men.
Yeah. Oh, wow. We'll have to get into that.
He is the very first Superman to play Superman on the big screen. The first of four, followed by Christopher Reeves, Brandon Routh Mouth, and
That's
and Henry Mustache Cavill.
Mustache.
Why does it feel like there have been so many more Supermen than that?
I know. Well,
Good
no, we're
Lord.
not talking TV though. There's been several TV.
Oh, that's true.
That's just the big screen.
Sorry, Dean Cain.
I know.
Yeah. George Reeves was played by Ben Affleck in the story of his life. Ben Affleck later went on to play Batman. So Ben Affleck is the only person to act as Superman and Batman both on the big screen.
He's like the Bo Jackson of comic book
Exactly.
movies. Wow. Far out, Ben.
Phyllis Coates played Lois Lane. She was a B film star, westerns, before she was hired on as Superman. She was shot dead in 1950. No,
There's a curse.
she was not. She's. I think she died of old age
She was at the party.
or something. She left after the first season of the series, and she was followed as Lois Lane on the big screen by several others, including Margot Kidder, Kate Bosworth, and Amy Adams. On television, of course, there were several other notable portrayals of Lois Lane. Who was the 90s one? What was her name?
Terry
Hatcher.
Terry Hatcher.
Yes.
She played with Dean Cain.
Yeah.
Dana Delaney did the voice in the Superman animated series
Ah, I didn't know that.
alongside Tim Daly as Superman. Voice-wise.
Interesting.
Not exactly a lightweight.
No. So, the film itself was shot originally as a pilot for the series, but was then released into theaters. The supporting cast, of course, features Jeff Corey, J. Farrell McDonald, and Stanley Andrews, all character actors acting as characters. It was shot in just over 12 days on the studio backlot.
Never would have guessed.
9 of which were the foot race.
and areas around L.A. which have never before been seen on film or since. It runs just 58 minutes, barely qualifying as a feature. It was renamed The Unknown People when it aired as the pilot episode of Superman the series, and they edited out all references to mole men.
Because they didn't want to offend real mole
They,
men?
exactly.
Well, what are real mole men? Miners?
Little-
like diggers?
No. That was
I totally bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. Why did they change the name? Do you know? I mean,
I couldn't find anything about that.
because that is.
Listen, I went through
All the mole men
I went through
picketed?
2.5 pages of Google results before I gave up researching this.
All right.
So if I couldn't find it, no one ever will know. So, the plot of the film, the very first superhero film ever made. In the small town of Silsbee, Texas, the world's deepest oil well.
So it is Texas. I missed.
I believe
that.
it. I had
It
to
was
infer it
Texas.
was Texas. Originally, for some reason, I thought it was Ohio. I don't know why.
Well, I thought it was interesting that they, we never really know where Metropolis is, where Gotham is, these kinds of things. But
It's coastal, right?
I would assume,
Yeah.
and you would assume that. Well, yeah, like sometimes Metropolis in my mind would be New York, but then a lot of times Gotham is definitely. So, anyways,
Yeah.
but this place is 2,500 miles from Metropolis.
Yes, exactly.
So
And
Texas makes sense.
well,
Yeah.
I did the math
I was like,
actually,
that's-
and figured it out because Clark mentions if whoever their driver was liked to drive at night, they'd be on their way to Dallas by now.
Oh, all right, there you go.
So
There was a reference. They said that they had been driving for several days, like when they first got to the place. So
where is this?
I mean, Texas, I guess, based on that mileage, but yeah, it had to be pretty west.
Yeah, definitely. But by my math, then, if it is somewhere in the middle of Texas, that would put Metropolis in the Atlantic Ocean.
All right.
So
A very
I have a
skinny
feeling they didn't do
peninsula.
a whole lot of research on where to put Silsbee.
All right, biggest oil well in the world, yeah.
Yeah, there's trouble at the old oil well. The drill shaft has penetrated deeper than any man has before penetrated.
How deep?
32,740 feet.
That's deep. Real deep.
You're gonna play shaft.
That's
music,
what she
right?
mole said.
That was one of the lines I really liked. They said how deep, and they said it, and then Clark says that's more than 6 miles down. Lois is like, good heavens, practically to the center of the earth.
Well, not quite, little lady.
Not quite, little lady. Yeah, actually, the radius of the earth is pretty close to 4,000 miles.
I mean, and I know they're journalists, educated people, but I just love how that's just common conversation,
I loved
How far down the middle
I loved
is-
how smarmy Kent was, especially at the beginning. Like, well, I'm here from the big city, everybody. Clark Kent.
You were going to show me a well.
We better be worth my time.
There's a story here.
Yeah.
One of my favorite. One of my favorite. Where was it?
He didn't act very mild mannered.
No, he was
Not
not,
at all.
mild mannered.
He never is. He's
in
kind of
everybody's
pushy.
face.
He's pushy for a dude in glasses.
But in my notes here, Kent says, "If you can prove it, I'll print it. Perry White says, "What now?" So they drill down, and then there's trouble. Big trouble.
Wait, they were burying tools. Can we
I
just
know.
talk
Yes,
Why were they
tools.
burying the tools?
To
Did they
hide
have some sort of pact? Did that ever make sense?
No,
Did
but
we
I
resolve
noticed it.
that plot
I wrote down the
at any
irony of
point?
burying mining equipment.
We're done.
The poetry
Like-
there.
Not to.
it rhymes. It's a
Well,
poem.
and they were frightened by things that were living even further down than where they were burying these tools and equipment. So they would be in between the mole men and themselves.
So the
giving them
moment
to
could
the
easily
moment,
get to
like,
the tool.
Yeah, it was
Or
like
what-
a,
It was a sacrifice.
sacrifice.
to the
If anything,
moment.
they should have hung the tools from trees.
I love, or maybe the foreman was like, if we can bury all these tools, people will forget about digging.
No one
There
will.
won't be mines anymore. Now hurry up. Yeah, I totally know.
Yeah. Okay. The drill shaft has penetrated the deep underground home of the Mole Men. A small, apparently furry, though bald. Though I'd like to point out they did have hair around their heads, so they weren't actually bald. They were suffering from male pattern baldness.
They were balding. Yes, absolutely.
Would it be mole pattern baldness?
It must be.
all I saw was eyebrows. Just this-
They did a lot of acting.
There were
with their
like some
eyebrows.
Instagram influencer eyebrows on them.
Seriously.
So, the mole men come up through the shaft at night, and when the creatures first emerge on the surface, their sudden appearance scares to death the elderly night watchman,
Yeah.
Pop,
Pop.
who loves oranges.
Poor Pop.
Pour
The
one
Irish
out for Pop.
stereotype.
Yeah.
He's literally a hole watcher.
It's like, well, I'll tell you. Oh, Pop.
Pop's been here a long time, yet he sits in his shack eating oranges. Doesn't watch shit.
Yeah, what kind of watchman
Two
is
children in turtlenecks and slacks.
He's watching a hole.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, he doesn't even go check on it. Is he listening to the radio? No, he's reading the paper.
Well, Pop's got to keep up with the races. All right. Lois Lane and Clark Kent arrive at the oil well to find the aforementioned tools being buried.
because they just went out for a cruise, right? They're like, we're just going out for a cruise.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you let Lois drive the car?
Well, no, they had a
was she
driver. That
allowed
third
to?
guy was
Oh, I
with
thought that the driver did.
Oh, yeah, the PR guy for the mining company.
Yeah, 'cause-
Yeah.
Who has
who
not
shows
been
up and is
told.
like, you're burying the tools?
Yeah, he was like that.
That's not how this works.
The right hand never knows what the left hand's doing. Is what he said, but I don't think the left hand ever suspected they would be burying mining tools. We're gonna stand here and see if they dig their way out.
Dig your way out of this one, PR man. So, the Clark Kent and Foreman, yes, exploring the surrounding area. Foremen are exploring the surrounding area for signs of intruders when Lois, oh yes, they find the dead watchman. Then they're exploring for intruders when Lois sees one of the creatures, screams, and bites the back of her hand.
As you do.
As you do in polite society. No one believes her when she tells them what she saw. And my notes just say dames, right?
She's on her menses. Keep reading this.
The medical examiner is summoned and later leaves. As
you do.
As you do. With Lois, Clark stays behind to confront the foreman, which I'd like to point out that everyone knows Superman is the world's greatest detective.
Oh, I have that written down as well. All right, we'll get to
Detective
it. We'll get to
Superman.
it.
Yeah.
How did he not see the tools? He has X-ray vision.
What's in this freshly dug hole? Certainly not tools.
I
Not
I
for
love
mining. That would be ridiculous.
Superman asks the doctor, "Can you die out of fear? Can you?" What
Yeah.
I forget the exact line,
Yeah.
but it was so bad.
Can you?
Yeah, can you die from fright?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. You tell me, reporter.
You're from the big city.
Yeah, but
You've seen things, haven't you?
It's like I learned how to do medicine on horses.
Yeah, right, like I'm a country. Oh, the many doctors of this town. We'll get to them eventually, but so medical examiner leaves. Clark stays behind to confront the foreman, who confesses that the well was closed for fear that they had struck radium and not oil. I should have looked up radium. Can you even strike radium? Is that how radium works? Anyone? Al? You're a smart guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll ask you when we have a math
strike
question.
it. Yeah.
The foreman proceeds to show Clark ore samples that were take a look at this radium. Hold it, feel it. That were collected during different stages of drilling. All of them glow brightly. Townspeople become afraid of the mole men because of their peculiar appearance and because everything they touch glows in the dark, which is not radium. It's just simple phosphorescence.
Yeah, that was the big reveal at the end there.
Yes, it was.
Don't worry, the children are safe.
It's just phosphorescence, which isn't phosphorescence a quality of something glowing? It's not something you can impart. Like I give you phosphorescence, rock.
Yeah, that's the descriptor of.
Right.
Yeah, I think he was implying that it was something that they didn't understand, that it was like magical.
Well, as long as it's not radium.
Yeah.
Well, it's because of the nonstop raves that they have down in Moletown. Those are glow sticks.
Moletown gets cray.
Did you say Motown or Moletown?
Moletown Records.
I had just watched Chernobyl, and then I watched this, and I was just like,
Oh, wow.
that poor girl. Is
Oh,
this
man.
radium?
Why does everyone in Russia have a British accent?
I wanted to point out that when they drilled down, they found what he thought was radium because it was glowing, but there were also like microscopic life. They looked under the microscope, and
yes.
they were like little bugs, you know. And
Because Superman is the world's greatest scientist.
Well,
Right.
Of course.
But then they were just like, "Oh, we found microscopic life way down there. Why, there could be a civilization down there." Like the leap in logic
Of tiny balding people.
The drill went through and broke through to like open air.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, he
they
did
like
say that.
described it in detail. So in the Superman universe, there's like a hollow Earth, I guess.
Yeah.
It
Or at
would-
least in the George Reeves Superman.
Yeah. Well, yeah. 6 miles down.
6 miles. Wow, there's a lot in there.
There-
That's a lot of open.
probably a
You know,
lot of
I have to
women.
think after the mole men came up, they must have been getting like terrible sunburns.
Right?
Yeah, I have a lot of mole questions.
They've never seen a horizon. That'd probably hurt their brain too.
Oh God, yeah.
How do they? Yeah.
Well, yeah. Did you any of you ever read the Pellucidor novels, Edgar Rice Burroughs? It's when they go to the center of the Earth, and he describes the horizon as like tilting up because you're inside a concave.
Like Halo
Oh,
or
right.
yeah,
something.
so I imagine it'd be very disorienting.
Yeah.
So
Well, they didn't get sunburns because even though when we're watching the movie, it looks like they're running around during the day.
It's
they're-
night.
It's supposed to be night.
oh, it was day
Oh,
for
yeah.
night.
It was
That
day
was
for night.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never got that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was.
Yeah, they kept referring to it as being
50s
nighttime.
style.
Yeah, they put the old
but-
polarized lens in front or whatever.
Yeah.
Of course, day for night shooting, it looked like broad daylight.
Yeah, of course. In 1951, day for night.
Yeah, I think it's in
a
the course
12-day
of the
shooting
night.
schedule.
I think there was maybe one scene when the mole men were on the dam where it actually looked like night because I guess they were in a sound stage at that point, and not shooting outside.
Tragic scene.
Okay, so the townspeople are. It was trash. They form an angry mob to kill the monsters, directed by the violent Luke Benson. Benson.
That guy.
Yeah, that's true. Superman's the only one able to resolve the conflict, stopping Benson and the mob.
I think Benson could have stopped the conflict. I'm
Yeah,
just gonna.
Ben-
Yeah,
I'm
he
pretty
definitely could have.
Yeah.
You're not going to shoot those little creatures. In the first place, they haven't done you any harm. In the second place, they may be radioactive. If they fall in the reservoir, they may contaminate the water supply. Save your time and ammunition, Benson. Sniper, quick!
killing
You know,
Superman.
he straight up tries to murder Superman, just like
Right off the bat.
Point blank
Like-
shoots him in the chest, like
Right off
5
the
times.
bat.
Yeah. He doesn't even ask him a question, just die.
Yeah.
And then, what's funny is like he shot him a couple times, and it obviously didn't work. So he tried punching him.
Yeah.
That was his second move. Like, oh, bullets didn't work. I'll just punch him. That'll do the job.
Later on, he
strength was
punches
his
the
confidence.
sheriff.
Yeah. I mean,
So this guy's got a lot of. There's some layers.
tried to take over the town. I mean,
Yeah,
Benson.
Benson.
Yeah,
Fuck
he's
you,
an ambitious
Benson.
guy. You know.
Yeah, son of a bitch. Superman saves one of the creatures after it's been shot by taking it to the hospital.
Because he was worried about it landing in the reservoir.
Yeah.
He tells the
And
guys,
irradiating
"Don't
Yeah,
do
he
that."
tells Benson.
They could have radiation emitting from their radium.
their radium bodies.
Yeah, they're
Right
like
out.
they're glowing. The glowing could have been better.
They weren't glowing,
But-
everything they touched
Everything
would glow. But they themselves were not.
Were they
glowing.
perhaps just fabulous?
Yeah,
Yes,
they're dream makers.
absolutely.
They exuded fabulousness.
Into the water supply.
Luscious coats.
The second creature returns to the wall head and disappears down its shaft. I would like to point out that single sentence glosses over an 8-minute chase sequence,
That is.
which is them shots of the mole person running across LA desert, then shots of the gang running across LA desert for 8 minutes. I counted 8 minutes in a
I didn't
58-minute movie.
Was it only 8?
It seemed a lot longer.
It went on for so long.
Well, there were a couple of them, weren't there? Or was that the only one?
There was that one really
Man.
long. There was after the reservoir. It was 8 minutes of them just chasing him around the desert until they got him into the shack and set it on fire.
Poor little mole man.
Yeah.
Yeah, they dogged him.
It was in real time.
Yeah, man. Seriously.
Don't worry, folks. The mole man escaped.
Yeah.
He lifted up the floorboards, and I was really rooting for him. I was just like,
Same.
dig, mole man, dig. I thought he was going to dig back down 6
So did I.
Because he's
So
the
he's
mole
a
man.
mole man.
He's the mole man.
He did not.
But he did not. He just escaped under the crawl space under the house.
Like any of us would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Non-mole
I love that,
people.
like-
Other non-mole man.
I think he's dead. I assume so.
All that I know about
Let's
these
take
critters.
these dogs and go.
Yeah. No, dogs. Come on. Stop being interested in what is clearly a dead creature.
Inside a burning building.
Yes. Let's not stick around and make sure.
I mean, the body's got to be worth a lot of money, too. I mean, they're
you'd
like an
assume
exotic
so.
creature. You'd think that's like a thing in the 50s.
If not for science, for another roadside attraction.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
And
Stuff 'em.
apparently in Silsby, they haven't even heard of Superman. So,
Yes,
like, a mole man's got to be mind blowing.
Yeah. So
Nobody mentions, like, what about the guy that Benson shot in the face?
I, at one point, someone mentions he's the Superman. Whoever
this
that
Super-
is. Like,
Well,
I've heard of him, I think.
It's just funny.
It's
Lois
not the
obviously
world's
knows who he
biggest
is.
news.
Yeah, like it's a Metropolis thing.
Clark literally sneaks off screen at one point and jumps back in as Superman.
It was beautiful. It was,
Yeah,
wow.
that's great.
I mean, man.
And Lois turns around to where Clark was standing 5 seconds previously. He's like, oh, Superman. Where's Clark?
Where did that coward Clark Kent go?
I mean, dames, man. That was another one of those moments
dames.
where it's like, we're just going to chalk it up to dames.
Dames.
Like, I could just hear it, like a room full of, like, guys with cigars and suits being
The
like,
dames don't know nothing.
and then dames, man.
Dames. Later, a doctor reveals that the injured creature will die unless he has surgery to remove the bullet. Clark Kent is forced to assist
Yeah.
World's greatest doctor.
surgery
Yeah.
when the nurse refused. And that was extremely responsible of the doctor to accept a reporter as his medical assistant.
Over a nurse.
Over-
Well, I know she was conflicted about the whole deal, but
She was like,
yeah.
right?
He's got x-ray vision. I mean,
Soon afterwards, Benson's mob arrives at the hospital, demanding that the creature be given to them, causing Superman to stand guard outside the hospital. He spends a lot of time with his hands on his hips.
Yeah.
Lois Lane stands at Superman's side. Yeah, she gets mouthy.
Get her out of the way, Corrigan, before she gets hurt.
Mr. Corrigan doesn't have to get me out of the way. I can get out of the way by myself if I feel like it. But I just don't feel like it. Take your filthy hands off me! Why, you dirty coward!
Get her out of the way! Are you all right, Miss Lane?
As
Yeah.
dames do from the big city. Until a shot's fired from the mob, narrowly missing her. Superman sends Lois inside and begins to relieve the mob of their rifles and pistols. Which brings me to my favorite quote of the film. None of you can be trusted with guns, so I'm going to take them away from you.
Yeah.
And he just takes them from everybody.
Yeah. It's very straightforward.
Like,
That,
wow.
yeah.
Man.
And he
was-
just kind of threw them on the ground.
Yeah. Just like
now none of you come pick these up.
yeah.
He does a lot of that kind of thing, too.
Yeah, he does.
Like an 8-year-old throwing like their toy on the ground. It was really
Well, and it's funny because obviously Superman has a pretty broad line because you can shoot him point blank and he still won't take your gun.
he just doesn't get it. He doesn't get like the
But once
danger
y'all
of
show up in
guns.
town, start waving them.
Well,
Takes a lot.
Yeah, well, I think he was pissed because they almost got Lois.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is it.
Later, 3 more mole men emerge from the drill shaft, this time bearing a strange weapon that looked suspiciously like a vacuum. They make their way to the hospital. Benson and his mob see the creatures, and Benson goes after them alone.
That wasn't a vacuum.
No, it was totally a vacuum.
I just thought they were vacuuming the whole time, just keeping the streets clean.
We're here to clean up this town. Superman. When the creatures see him, they fire their laser-like weapon at him, which I love the little move where the one ducks down and becomes the stand for the gun.
Yeah.
Ahead of its time, man.
Superman sees this and jumps quickly in front of the pulsating ray, saving Benson's life, which Superman says is more than you deserve.
What a dick.
Yeah,
Come on, Superman. There
normal-
are kids watching.
Yeah, right? That's harsh. He fetches the wounded creature from the hospital and returns him and his companions to the wellhead. Well, I noticed the mole men gesture to each other. They never speak to each other, so I assume they're mute. Soon after, from deep underground, the mole men destroy the drill shaft, making certain that no one can come or go up or down ever again. Lois observes,
It's almost as if they were saying, you live your lives, and we'll live ours.
that was a movie,
Yeah.
so to speak.
So 1951?
1951.
Yeah.
It came out months after the day the Earth stood still.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, oh, man.
It definitely it plays more like a sci-fi film than a superhero film, I think.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the whole fear of the other, Red Menace themes going on, and I thought it was interesting that at the title card itself was just random like space stuff. There was no.
Yeah. And there are little intro. So, yeah. So it starts right off, the intro about Superman. Something that I thought was interesting that he says that on the planet of Krypton, he comes from a race of supermen.
Yeah.
Now, I understand the canon hadn't been fleshed out all that much by then, but, you know, they're normal on Krypton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Krypton.
It's our atmosphere and our sun
our
and all
yellow
that
sun.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, my understanding. So.
So, one check off.
Yes. Thank you very much.
You win a no prize.
Yeah, and that's interesting too because this was actually written by at least half of the team was a comic writer who wrote for Superman and Batman during the 40s.
In the credits, it said based on Superman magazines.
Ooh.
So sophisticated.
Is that what Superman finds? Like the news editor, like, ooh, one for me.
Like, oh,
Superman
Khrushchev was
magazine.
on the cover of Superman magazine again. He was Superman magazine's Man of the Year again.
Modeling the newest spandex.
Yeah,
There was one time it was Rock Hudson. Superman was just like, all right, fine, you get one.
It's giant like a Look magazine. Just kids looking at ads for Pontiacs and Winston cigarettes.
How to host a Tupperware party. Other things that happened in the 50s.
With super villains. All right.
I love the transatlantic accents. Those were great. Oh, poor old Pop. The foreman was a real dick to Pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, right out. And and clearly Pop is easily hurt. Like, like this
Pop
is
was
not
like-
something that happened that day.
Didn't he scare him? And he
He was so like, oh, well, okay, if you say
Yeah,
so.
It's like, why don't you? It's something to the effect of mind your own business, or get back to what you're doing. It's like he is the watchman. He's
like
clear to ask.
He's supposed to be asking questions.
Right. Why are you burying all the shit we used to dig?
Are we not going to dig any longer?
I've been watching you do this for hours, and I finally figured I should ask you something about it.
He's an Irish immigrant.
This is pretty small potatoes for the world's greatest superhero.
Oh, yeah.
The Mole Men in Silsbee, Texas.
Well, there's a real vibe that Superman hasn't done a whole lot.
Yeah.
It hasn't made it to Silsbee.
Yeah, that's true. If but like, yeah, there's not a lot in the papers if Silsbee's.
So it's like, even if he is mostly helping people in Metropolis, like, word of the bulletproof flying man hasn't made it out to Texas.
Right.
Like Western Union.
I have a feeling Walter Cronkite would have something to say about that.
Exactly. Murrow.
He's his own PR guy. He's just going out on world tour. He's like, first we got to hit Silsbee. They've got the world's deepest oil well.
And they have an awesome
Lois,
PR guy.
I can't wait to see it. It looks like any other oil well, but it's not.
It's the deepest one.
Therefore, the best. So.
Yeah. So oranges.
Yes. Yeah. Pop loves oranges.
PR guy showed up with some.
Which phosphorescent oranges would definitely be, or no, radioactive oranges would definitely be a name for a band in 1997.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh.
Harmless phosphorescent oranges, though, doesn't really have the same ring.
Yeah, harmless phosphorescent oranges. HPO for short.
Right.
That's more of a band for 2010,
Yeah.
Yeah. Updated.
not 1997.
Or, if 1967 Sergeant Phosphorescent Oranges.
I did make a note. You mentioned World's Greatest Detective. Well, the reason Superman is not called that because, like, they had surmised that Pop had died, but one of the first things Superman asks is, "How did the oranges get on the floor?"
Gravity?
Like you wouldn't. Even, yeah, exactly. Someone wouldn't have had to die for oranges to get on the floor, but he did. So
This is a
It's
travesty.
he knocked some oranges over.
It's almost as if these oranges fell from some height that was more than not a height.
And God bless Lois for not just looking at him.
Like,
You investigative piece.
yeah, you're an investigative reporter, Clark. What the fuck?
It's not even an important question.
Molemen, apparently, just random notes now. The Molemen apparently hate flowers, are scared of snakes.
Snakes we saw. Yeah.
They love balls, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're into balls.
Yeah.
The way they were playing with that child.
Yes.
Yes.
With the ball. One ball.
Yeah, there was
That
some.
sounds terrible taken out of context.
Yeah,
Just
but
watch the movie. It's worth it.
totally.
For the foot
Well,
race.
that was a note
the
I
foot
had.
race by itself.
Yeah.
When they come back with their vacuum gun, that was my note. Mole Men came to do two things: kick ass and play catch. They did enjoy that ball.
But no, the foot race, it was like something out of Ronin.
Oh, man. Yeah. Just, or like a John Wick, like, continuous, like... Just no violence, though. Just these poor little
They did their
mole
own
men.
stunts.
Right.
Of course
Falling,
they did.
Falling down hills, like slowly running up a hill and then falling and then getting up.
I'm certain they had no lines just because people at that time didn't think dwarves could talk. Or didn't want
I
them
imagine
to.
how terrified
Well, it
the
was a
director was
kid,
when one of
too.
them asked him for a note. He was like, "How should I play this?" What the heck? No one told me this thing could make noise.
God damn, this
We don't
is
want
a
to scare
talkie.
everybody.
I'm Rollum Sholem. I've never seen something like this.
Yeah, he made the most movies, and most of them didn't have any voices or sounds.
Especially not from dwarves.
To be fair, 1,000 of those were just episodes of I don't know, How I Met Your Mother. I don't know. So I thought it was interesting. Superman didn't show up until the halfway point of the film.
Yeah, I wrote that. Kind of like the Donner movie, even.
Yeah.
Takes a long time before you see Superman.
Yeah, totally.
It's cool that way.
He only had 2 moments where he flew.
Yeah.
I mean,
The flying.
the sound.
Yes, the sound of a jet landing and it takes him a while to land too. So
It was just like this weird whistle and
then
sound.
It was like I had to turn my TV down.
Yeah, it was like
terrible.
jarring. There was so much of it.
And okay, so the POV shot of him flying from his feet
Oh man.
perspective when it was going backwards over the townspeople,
oh yeah,
that could that could only be from his feet. It was going backwards.
So bad.
The flying basically consisted of him jumping off screen,
Yeah, and then the sound.
and then the sound,
This is a job for Superman.
which sounded like he was traveling 1,000 kilometers per second immediately after lifting off the ground.
But he went the length of one Hollywood backlot street.
Yeah. Meanwhile, about like 40 miles an hour, probably.
Yeah, oh god, yeah, if he's lucky. It's a brisk walk, really.
How big is this city or this tiny
The
town?
town of
Yeah.
Silsbee, 1,403 people.
He must not be able to fly very fast because it was a better idea to take a car all the way to Silby from Metropolis.
Yeah, no, I'll meet you there, Lois.
None of that, yeah. Or why do 2 of us need to see a big hole?
Yeah, why
The
did they
hard-hitting
send 2
questions.
reporters? 2 reporters. That's like the New York. They're from Metropolis. That's like the New York Times sending 2 reporters.
But not telling anyone about the Superman that lives in New
To
York.
write a story about a hole in the ground.
A hole.
The world's deepest hole.
A fully functioning well. That was the whole plan. We're going to write a story about a well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
We're going to write a story about a fully functioning well.
Oh, it doesn't work? That's okay. We'll stick around.
So it brings the oil from down there up here. Sensational.
And
What they won't think of next.
How did they end up with an oil well that deep? There's just like, how deep do you have to drill to get oil in general? I didn't look that up, but it's just like, oh, we haven't hit oil yet. Let's just keep going.
Right, I was gonna say, yeah. When do you stop? Looking. Right, because
And if they dug a hole all the way down and it got too like an open hollow earth, I'm going back to this hollow earth thing. The oil would have leaked into the Moleman's world.
Yeah,
that's
that
right.
wasn't
Yeah.
far enough down for. Yeah.
Man, they missed a real opportunity there. It would have been a real crisis.
Yeah. What if they're stealing the Moleman's oil? They're like, we need this oil.
We eat that stuff.
Whoa.
We use it to drive what we call go-beels. So the racial subtext.
Ooh, man.
It's time for a good old-fashioned lynching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
string them up. Sure.
String them up
there-
was said.
They're called critters.
Yes.
Right
Yeah.
off the. Clark calls them creatures, which I suppose is a little more diplomatic
It's
because they're living, but we don't know. But yeah, critters. I was waiting for varmints. I was waiting for someone to call them
Pop
that.
would have called them varmints.
Yeah, no. There was
Or
one other-
wascally wabbits.
It has no feeling. One guy adamantly
Yes.
makes that point with no. They heard it scream when they shot it, as it fell to its death, or so they thought. But yeah, it has no feeling.
It's after our white women.
I read Benson's blog this morning. It has no feeling. It wants our women and our jobs.
Yeah, the subtext was barely sub
Yeah,
for
man.
this whole thing. I know it's. I've read a number of reviews about this, and they all mention the Red Scare subtext, but it's in 2019. It's kind of hard not to see it as racial subtext, just all around the fear of the other.
Right.
It had this weird To Kill a Mockingbird, like all of these scenes outside the courthouse, kind of like the whole town is wrong, and you've got like what's his name? George Reeves looks like Gregory Peck.
Yeah.
Like, Superman is Atticus
when he's
Finch.
guarding the courthouse. Yeah, and they all show up. Wow. It does have that vibe. Totally.
It's totally weird. Like,
and the little girl was just a scene out of Frankenstein, by the way.
Yeah.
Really?
Well,
when Frankenstein goes to the little girl,
finds her by the pond, and however, it was also a nod to a movie that had not yet been made. But when they peek up in the window and they're looking into a bedroom, all I could think of was Animal House. And
man,
I was just like, man, if this just went there for 5 minutes.
Oh God.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Like she's getting, no, obviously not a child, but getting undressed in the moment, or just. Yeah. So anyway.
Oh wow. They're glorious eyebrows.
One thing that would reference like the Red Scare, Superman made some point like everything that's happened to everybody has been because we're afraid. It's a very nothing to fear but fear itself kind of line.
Yeah, that definitely.
Like Monsters Do on Maple Street kind of vibe from the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, yeah, totally. No,
it's just about the mob.
There's some very Twilight Zone-y 50s sci-fi to this. I mean, it's essentially a sci-fi film that happens to feature Superman.
Yeah.
I don't know if this movie should have been The Mole Man featuring Superman. My second favorite line. This is not a dog hospital.
Well, then we are in the wrong place.
What about
is it a mole man hospital?
Who was the so there were two doctors. One was like a resident physician.
There was
there was
like the town,
the chief of surgery or the head of the
apparently
hospital.
They have a full hospital,
and he like rebelled to save him. There was some interesting
like Hippocratic Oath stuff going. Yeah,
there was some really heavy moral stuff that was happening in this weird kids movie.
Oh yeah, a lot of really heavy stuff going on. Well, just like the doctor came out and told the mob to go that they couldn't come in. They all just stopped and stood there waiting for Superman to show up.
Yeah, and Superman called them Nazi stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Speaking of this,
Yeah, good on Superman.
Threw it right. Yeah, it was still fresh then. That was a too soon moment.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, this movie had a point of view about some stuff.
I had a weird thought about that because 51, George Lucas. I wonder if young kid George Lucas, that's like the seed crystal to his thought of I'm gonna call these guys stormtroopers.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That was all. Yeah. That was the moment he said it though, I was like,
I would have bet George Lucas definitely saw this.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
They threatened to lynch Superman. Yeah. So I'm sure.
Good luck with that.
Again, after the shooting didn't work.
Yes.
Nor the punching.
Yeah.
Shooting, punching. How about hanging?
His greatest weakness.
He's like Rasputin, this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that Superman was when he had just explained that they were irradiated and everything. He sort of had a Ferris Bueller's dad suggestion. He's like, wrap them in heavy blankets, and then he stuck with that.
Like heavy blanket, that'll do it.
Quotes definitely stop radiation.
They could have had some interesting moments there. They could have had some educating moments because of the Red Scare, and they were probably getting some pressure to say things. They could have been like, make sure you take your iodine and get some sponsorships.
From iodine.
This radium thing, iodine will take care of that. No fear. Have a gas mask.
I love how I just wrote, if only we had a benign, all-powerful master to show up and show us the error of our racist ways. Oh, God. So they just kind of were walking around town, out in the open. Yeah. Good thing the entire town was in the angry mob.
Yeah, they were all distracted. I don't remember the conversation, but it was two members of the mob, or maybe it was the sheriff and a member of the mob. But anyways, it's like, where is everybody? And one of the guys in the mob is like, he's with Carpenter and the Tall Boys.
Another great band name.
I was like, this tiny town of Sylvia is like old hat at the lynch mob. Like they've got little factions and like satin jackets for the different. So Carpenter and the Tall Boys,
gangs.
yeah, they either were a hometown team or they were licensed out or something. But
Carpenter and the Tall Boys.
yeah.
Like, oh, that's a good mob.
But then, like you said, now in 2019, Tall Boys, it reminds me of Proud Boys. So it reminds me of that same kind of that weird mob mentality that I guess we don't grow out of.
Yeah. So, Luke shows up to take care of the mole man and the threat all by himself. Mm-hmm. Luckily, Superman's immune to their shiny rays. Which was that harmless phosphorescence? It looked pretty painful.
It seemed
Do they have
way
advanced
painful.
weaponry?
Way painful.
Benson sounded like he was in pain, but the weapon basically just pinned him to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the end, when they turned it onto the frame of the oil well, it just exploded in flame.
Oh yeah.
So it's more harmful to metal than
Advanced
Like,
mold.
Then Luke Benson.
Then Benson. Fuck you, Robert Guillaume.
So what's that guy like when things are fine in town? Like when there's just a carnival that comes in.
It's like, let's get the clowns. No, Luke, calm down.
He seems like he's always spoiling for a fight. That dude is
Shouting at his neighbors.
They're gonna get our women.
He tried to like mutiny the town. He punches the sheriff in the face.
Yeah.
He's like,
they took the sheriff hostage.
yeah.
This
And,
town is lawless.
Superman destroyed his shotgun, so he goes home and gets a handgun. He doesn't reconsider his plan at all. He goes and gets his pistol.
Well, no one ever said Benson was a smart man.
Yeah. They show up at the hospital, I think. Is that where it is?
Yeah.
He just walks up to Superman and says, "Get out of the doorway."
was the whole third act in the hospital? I'm pretty sure that like the
entire
tail
third act
end-
was just there in the town.
Yeah.
Like some walking around town and some
Oh,
hospital
right, and
stuff.
the hospital, yeah. Because I love the way Clark Kent comes out, takes the scrub mask off. He's in the scrub. And then Lois shows up. And they have their conversation. She's like, "Take that silly thing off." It's like,
You look ridiculous, you bastard.
he just assisted in extraterrestrial surgery.
Lois is not very nice to Clark, honestly.
No.
There's a lot of the scene walking back to the well with the moment at the end is also about a minute and a half of them walking.
And he encounters a hobo the first time around.
the hobo.
The hobo.
And I don't know if he's taking a sip of water. I would assume water because it wasn't hot, but it looked like it's a pot of beans that the mole man attempts to, drinks from.
That's right, yeah.
It was one of those old timey cups with the really long handle on it that you have to scoop water out of a bucket to drink.
Oh, I might not have
seen
seen
thing.
this.
Didn't Superman carry the injured mole man, not just a mole, but a mole man, all the way back to the hole in the ground?
Yeah, that's the scene. It took like a minute and a half of walk.
He's
like he was just
carrying
walking.
him. It's
Why
just
didn't he fly?
Right? Like, just pick up the other little mole man and just get the hell out of town, man.
Right.
Isn't there a riot like forming around you still?
And when he flew him to the hospital, he was wrapped in a blanket. So Superman was already ready. He was already to practice what he preached.
He's like, I said blankets and I mean it.
Yeah.
I read a book on radio.
Radiation
once.
doesn't even affect me. But I want all you kids to know. You should be wrapped in a blanket.
If you're ever in a nuclear meltdown, wrap yourself in a blanket.
Have a bowl of hot chicken soup.
Lock yourself in your fridge like Indiana Jones.
Put some peanut butter in your hair.
What?
That might be for gum. I don't know.
And I know that they were played by little people, by dwarves, but they were children, right? They send children on recon missions, the mole people. They just look like kids.
Well, definitely one of them was a little person, but I think the other one might have just been a kid.
Yeah.
And those were elite moleman soldiers.
You could tell, the
They're-
best of the best.
They're the tip of the spear.
Yeah, were these two just the ones that wandered up out of the well, or were they like?
Were they
they
sent
like
on
force?
recon? Yeah. That's why I wonder. And their decision to wear turtlenecks and slacks did not work out for them.
Well,
That's
again, was
genetics.
fabulous.
That's all natural.
Was it? Oh, was it meant to be hair?
Yeah.
That was supposed to be hair.
That's hair.
Oh, because they
I thought they were wearing
they didn't bother
No.
with a small gap because there was hair on their hands.
That's a heavy conditioner, like a leave-in conditioner, overnight.
Oh my
And,
god,
Because
that makes their male pattern
Yeah.
baldness even funnier.
Why are they going?
Because they're mole-men. They're just that hairy.
They're little George Costanzas.
Yeah,
After-
very
I know,
much
yeah.
Costanzas.
Right.
After Lois saw them, she describes them as having bodies of moles and great big human heads.
Yep. Great big human
I was so
head.
confused by the bodies of moles. I thought she was just referring to their hands.
No.
Because
Yeah.
They were.
But they're,
I
You
did
guys
not.
thought they were
I did not read that.
their
as
hands
hair.
were the least
That was
mole thing about them.
I think
supposed to be a
it
mole
was-
costume.
Was the black and white, the nighttime
Yeah.
shots
That
made
was-
it look like they were wearing like spy gear, but
Yeah.
they were really just supposed to be fuzzy little.
Wow,
Little
that did not
dudes.
read for me at all.
Yeah.
That changes
Same,
everything.
same with me. Because their hands didn't even look
I have
like
to
mole
rewatch
hands.
this movie now.
They didn't.
We gotta
they
redo this
didn't look
entire
good for digging.
podcast. Everything's changed.
Wow. All right.
Come back next week for part 2 of.
So, all right. Do we have any last thoughts on Superman and the Mole Men?
Oh well.
Yes, please.
Let's see. Okay, I got that one.
There was
Oh.
a.
No, please.
There was a one reference to Lois almost being suspicious of Clark. I think it might have been after the surgery, but just made some comment about how it seems like he's living two lives, kind of thing.
God.
And almost immediately after that, Clark said he's like, look, they're coming down the street. And Lois is like, I don't see them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they
He's
turn
like-
the
and
corner.
and Clark says, just wait. And I'm pretty sure that 5 beats go by and the two guys come running around the corner.
That's right. He was using his
They were-
X-ray vision.
So did he
Yeah,
have?
his X-ray
That's what I meant
vision.
earlier. Did he have X-ray vision at
I
this
think
point?
that
Because
was
I know
supposed to
powers
be
got
his-
added to him as years
I
went
think that
on.
was supposed to be his X-ray vision.
Okay, then that brings up the questions. I think Brian mentioned one, but also the surgery. It's like, where's the bullet? Look, what's his body makeup? The doctor had to tell Clark that positioned all the same, but
They said they were the same as people on
Right.
the inside, which
It-
was interesting. I thought that was also like a metaphor for the whole.
Oh,
like,
right, that we're all the
which is
same.
why that
and
line
the
was
Red Scare.
was especially funny to me because I had assumed they were just wearing a turtleneck.
They're just
and
people.
slacks.
No, they're little hairy dudes.
I was like, why would they be different?
just
They
little
just
George
look like
Costanza.
people.
and they put their change purse in the same place we do.
Yeah. Lois calls Clark a coward so many times.
So many
as
times.
he leaves, she's like, there he goes, just always running away. Whenever there's some urgent thing that happens, he runs away afraid. But
Well,
Superman's so courageous.
And to both of those points, to Alice too, she said something about where is Superman now, and Clark answers like he's here or he's there, and she's like, how would you know? And he's like, if I don't, who should?
You'd be like, well, that's
And then there's just
cryptic.
dead air after that. It's like,
Dames,
why,
man.
why would you know?
What kind of reporter are you, Lois?
One thing I-
Seriously, though.
I love that.
That
several-
line, it sounded like he was half saying it under his breath. That
Yeah.
particular line.
Okay.
He just said it too loud. He's not good at quiet.
Because it
talking.
was supposed to be nighttime.
The loud part quiet and the quiet part loud.
Damn. I love how many times Superman tells the mole people that no one means them harm.
No one.
No one.
Especially Benson.
Right. When you guys were doing that Three Amigos thing on top of the dam, it wasn't us
They were
that
trying
shot you
to-
down.
Shoot the dam.
And I love that gun. All right, so I had a question about the gun. When they do finally fire it, one mole guy has to get on his hands and knees, and they put the gun on his back. And I love if that. I was curious if that's just impromptu. We've never shot things up on Earth before, or if like that was a design thing.
How it's
the gun designer's like, I could put on little legs. Like, no, it's fine. But then you wouldn't have to. It's fine.
Doug's gonna get down.
Yeah, we're gonna put it on his back.
The tripod's too heavy to carry up the ladder.
Right, exactly.
But
So send another mole
One
man.
of them was carrying it around just fine by himself.
Right.
I just hope that they don't have to use it that way. That's just that guy's style.
It's just more
Let's do
intimidating.
the back thing.
I'm helping.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Let him think.
He finally got to be on a recon team.
Did I do good, Sarge? You did good, Timmy.
Gonna get a mole promotion, whatever that is exactly.
They're gonna put a little braid in one of his little hairs because it's hair.
It's hair.
It's not a suit.
It's not at all an outfit.
They're like Wookiees.
It totally changes how I look at them.
No, I
Or they're like little Bigfoot. They're like a bald.
Because I went off on a
little
tangent with my
Bigfoots.
brain about their clothes and went shopping.
So do you think they have like a? They obviously have advanced technology.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
they've got the shooting vacuum thing.
if they can shoot with their vacuums,
Mm-hmm.
why aren't they wearing clothes? Are they more advanced than we are?
Right, that doesn't even.
And
well,
wh-
I couldn't see their little mole.
and why
junk.
haven't they discovered Propecia?
Yeah, that top. Yeah, that's rough to be covered in hair and then balding.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of like matting and like lingering smells.
We're watching.
I would think, yeah.
We're
All that oil.
We're watching Seinfeld with Jude, my son, for you podcast people.
Yeah.
And just tonight we watched the one where Elaine's dating the guy who shaves his head, and she convinces him to grow it back, and it turns out he's balding.
Yes.
Oh
yeah.
no.
And I just kept thinking of the mole man.
Right. Or so they can do a comb over, but they start at their ass and go all the way up. It's kind of rough to be a mole man.
So right now, it's a real contender for a Halloween costume, you
The
guys.
moment.
Yeah.
That's
It
a
is pretty
deep
good.
I'm
cut.
just letting my body hair grow.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
a deep cut if you can pull that off.
There's that one mole man who just wears a baseball hat all the time, and nobody is quite sure.
And so, do the mole women bald too?
Well, I got a lot of questions.
Are there mole women?
Yeah, are there
Yeah.
mole women?
Yeah, how do they?
Are they as mouthy? Are they as mouthy as the broad's top side? Like Lois and that nurse who fucking can just decide not to
Yeah.
work.
There's only two women in this: the nurse and Lois.
And they got
And they're
attitude
both, like,
problems.
sassy ladies.
They are.
But yeah, no, did the mole women like bite the back of their hands and scream when like,
Yeah,
the mole
exactly.
When they see human beings.
Oh my God! What if the first two mole people were investigative reporters from the mole world? They were amazed at this hole, the biggest hole they have, that goes all the way up.
We drilled up farther than any mole's ever drilled.
But
Super mole man, and his weakness is lead.
Super mole man.
But,
Yeah, you can't kill him unless you shoot him.
With lead. It's not kryptonite. It's lead. Lucky shot.
All right, well, gentlemen, I propose that we, in addition to viewing and watching and discussing every superhero movie ever made, rank them.
oh,
So, by my calculations, due to it being the current standing for best superhero movie we've yet watched for this podcast is Superman and the Mole Men.
Obviously.
yeah, I'll put that at the
it's-
top of the
It's
list.
standing at number one.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to beat.
I thought it was just Ducky.
Yes.
Thank you everyone for listening. Next week we are going to be looking at Batman 1966 starring Adam West. Will it be as good as Superman and the Mole Men?
Oh, much better.
Only time will tell.
It's so good.
I'm looking forward to that one. So thank you everyone for listening. I'm Thoreau.
I'm Al.
I'm Brian.
I'm Josh.
And this is the Superhero Movie Podcast until we think of a better name.
I'm going to go bury my tools, you guys.
Harmless Phosphorescence is a production of the Harmless Entertainment Network. Visit us at patreon.com/harmlessentertainment for early and ad-free new episodes, bonus episodes, and so much more. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, or Facebook to get the latest news, participate in polls, or just let us know what you think about the movies we're watching. You can also send us an email at harmlessentertainment@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and be sure to tune in next week.